So what is happening with Bitcoin? After breaking a key price level, today we're going to be talking about where the future of Bitcoin can be. Are we going to get a retracement to 49,000? Are we retracing all the way to 37,000? Or is Bitcoin getting ready to basically rocket up to 66,000, to the moon, 85,000, 90, 90, 100, the magical psychological number that everyone's been asking for? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your day. And again, just a friendly reminder, today is the non-farm payrolls and private payrolls coming out. So Bitcoin can be affected by these things, right? Bitcoin becomes synonymous with the economy and the risk on mentality in the market. And boy, oh boy, it's been a bumpy ride if you've been a Bitcoin holder, right? It was a fun ride as we were running up from 43 all the way to the magical 72,000. And I did say around 70, 75 was going to be that psychological number. And we've just been bashing our heads in at that point. And I'm trying to give you guys a retrospective analysis on Bitcoin, kind of giving you the positive and negative. I'm not trying to sway you to be bullish. I'm not trying to sway you to be bearish. I'm just trying to give you what the optionality is of this particular asset class, right? We don't traditionally do a lot of videos on Bitcoin. So again, I'm not the most knowledgeable person on Bitcoin. However, I'm trying to give you an unbiased approach that other people that are currently trading Bitcoin may not necessarily see. So looking at from a simple trader's perspective, we can clearly see that we've basically been hitting this resistance point around the roughly 68,000 mark, right? 68, 70 has been stair stepping, right? Banger head, banger head, banger head, banger head. And subsequently, because of that, I was even thinking around this point, okay, we've finally broken back above it. We're going to close. We're going to start pushing. Third time push right there that we're going to finally close above it. And then subsequently, the sell-off afterwards, I was like, wow. That was a razor haircut. Came down to the 200-day moving average, broke it significantly, but that was the scare of the recessionary fears in the markets. However, those have since calmed down. But the question is, Bitcoin being the risk on asset, are we going to get further continuation with this? This is the fear and greed index, where basically we judge the greediness and the fearfulness of traders. Bitcoin being the risk on asset primarily benefits from this thing being in a greed and extreme greed territory. So the question is, naturally, is this going to falter back to fear? Is Bitcoin subsequently going to be a fear class asset? And where do we find support if we go to the bearish situation? So let's dissect the bearish situation first and foremost. So as we can see here, we broke the 200. That's a significant break, especially because it was previous support for us for a longer period of time. And because it was support for us for a long period of time, subsequently now we don't really get to appreciate in that area, right? We saw this with the NASDAQ, not really jumping into the stocks. I know this wants to be a Bitcoin based video, but I want to look at the NASDAQ, right, as an example of what happens when you hit a moving average for a significant amount of time. You keep touching, you keep touching, you keep touching, you keep touching, and then it is lights out for you, as we say with the market. And subsequently, this is what happened with the NASDAQ. We basically got the rug pull occurring on the NASDAQ. The question is that going to happen with Bitcoin? And if it does, what levels do we need to pay attention to? The first level I'm going to be paying attention to is the 53,000 hold. And that's going to be where we basically closed around for the subsequent drop. That's where we should expect to find buyers. And we can actually jump to this other chart right here that I got up 54 to approximately 53 and $200 is a buying opportunity around Bitcoin. That was a previous zone established. We actually touched the reversal zone when we came back previously, but it's in an area that there's possible reversal occurring. If you shred through this, there is not a lot of support until you get down to further price action. If we jump over to the weekly, it's thin, right? There's no zones, there's no structural support. When we have parabolic moves like we previously had over here, when we had these parabolic moves on markets, right? So there's not a lot of price action or volume to support you in this region. So moving back down through it is very, very easy, considering there's only one structure to break, which was the candle going up. Candle going down is basically equivalent to both of them. So the natural question that everyone has on their mind is, how low can we go? Well, we can put a standard parabolic retracement for this, and we can actually go from peak to trough of the previous, right, to make it more advantageous for us to determine where this is going to go. Subsequently, 44,000 to around 36 is an area that we commonly see here. It actually is stronger price action that we have right here, where we're basically around that 42,000. And I do have an article right here that I want to share with you, where Bitcoin rides U.S. job miss amid warning Bitcoin could retest 49,000 and a half. So let's go back and dissect this number, right? Let's go back and dissect this 49,000 number. It's around the 50,000, right? It's the previous low that we established, could retest there. Very much so. We could come down and have what is traditionally called a double top, right? Not a double top, a double rotationary point. And I'm going to snap a line to where we had our previous all-time high, where we broke through. Now that was support. We came down, we retested perfectly on 49,435. If we get a secondary bounce there with price action stabilizing around there, that would be very bullish for Bitcoin. That would be definitely an accumulation area for Bitcoin. However, this is where the more bearish thesis comes in, that you have what is traditionally called a broadening wedge, right? So there's a very bearish pattern. You usually have to break it down to the downside in order to invalidate it. And then subsequently, we then reestablish a pattern and go up. Again, I don't believe this to be a gigantic bull flag pattern anymore, because the flag is spreading out too much, right? Traditionally, a bull flag pattern would have something similar to like this versus all the wicks to the downside that we had. That's why it's not a traditional bull flag pattern. However, where could Bitcoin go up to the upper appreciation side? And also, what do we subsequently have to do in order to get that? Well, number one, as I mentioned before, we need to get back on the fear and greed index and basically have further upside appreciation, where we're basically going to get back into greed, more bullish mentality in the market. The fear can't be flowing, right? The fear of job numbers cannot be going. And just to refresh, job numbers would have come out by the time this video is live, so you can assess how those play in. If these come in very significantly bad, then the question is, how is this all going to play out onto private payrolls? How are job numbers going to affect it? What is going to be the sentiment for investors? Are they basically going to say, hey, I'm taking water on these other investments, I'm going to sell Bitcoin to cover my losses on these investments, and basically have a complete wash on it, right? You got to think about how people are going to react in the long term, because, okay, take a profit here, take a loss here, wash it out. I don't pay taxes, but I'm made whole again, right? I'm not technically losing anything. Now let's flip to the complete bull side. Let's say Bitcoin rallies above 57,649. That's a 200-day moving average. First of all, I'm not going to get truly bullish until we get back above 61,000. That is where the 50-day moving average is currently sitting, and therefore I want to see significant price appreciation and finally break 66,000, right? I want to get above this darn resistance line, and a fourth test would weaken it significantly, but I want to break it on the fourth. I don't want to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rejections, right? It's just rejection land that it's been hitting its head, and the more times it hit its head up there, the more bullish it's going to be. But we have to ask ourselves, are we going to get it back up there? Because subsequently on this last run, right, we basically didn't even get down there. We basically collapsed before we got back up there. So it shows weakness in the price action. Now, again, we could get back there. What is the probability of getting back up there? I would personally argue it's going to be dependent on the payroll numbers. If the payroll numbers spark bullishness, there's more than a 60% chance likelihood that we get back up there. What we do there is no man's land, right? I can't tell you what it's going to be. Anyone telling you that what it's going to be, they're full of crap, right? If they had a future ball to determine what that's going to be, they would be billionaires right now, and they wouldn't need this YouTube channel. They wouldn't even be telling you anything, right? So subsequently, I'm just trying to share my thoughts with you of different scenarios that can play out. So if you break consistently 66,000, start closing above 70, then okay, then 75, 80, 90, 100, those numbers are psychologically in place and could definitely push higher. I think 75 doesn't count anymore because we came very, very close to it. So that psychological number is already past that, right? Break 75, hit 80, 85, 90, and then the magic 100 number, right? 100 is going to be that really big psychological number that we're going to have to basically chop around and probably have one of these events again, where we chop around for a couple months and then go sideways, create a new zone, create new established price action, and then run up higher, right? Long term, I think Bitcoin is going to be a fantastic asset. Do I think that it's not able to crash? No, I think any asset class can crash no matter what it is. I think Bitcoin could revisit the lows of 38,000 if we a bad enough sentiment were occurrence in the market. However, I still think that Bitcoin is going to have a very, very longevity. I don't think they can restructure it to the point where they can collapse this thing. I think Bitcoin's going to be around long before all of us are in the grave and long gone, right, to when we're returned to the dust. But in the meantime, we have to look at other cryptocurrencies to basically indicate what's going to be happening, looking at the broader market, looking at fear and greed, right? Another indicator you guys can use is the VIX, right? Volatility index. You usually, when this thing goes down, Bitcoin goes up because they're inversely correlated to one another. So there's an interesting data point to pay attention to of what could be happening, how it can be happening. So yeah, it's going to be a fantastic time for Bitcoin. Definitely going to be some challenging time, definitely going to be some volatile time. So make sure you guys are prepared for that. And if you enjoyed this type of content, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button down below along with the like, and make sure the bell notifications are on so you know when we go live. We're going to be going live 7 p.m. Eastern tonight, where you can come join us, ask questions. We're going to go over ADP Payrolls. I'll probably cover Bitcoin on it as well and the broader market. So you're going to get a jam-packed one there. And if you guys wouldn't mind following us on Discord, right? We have a Discord server. We can come join, ask us questions directly, and also interact with different members. So yeah, it's going to be a fantastic time. So make sure you guys jump down there below, and on the way out, hit the like button. It really helps the channel out. And I will see you all in the next one, and hopefully the live stream.